Hi guys, my name is Alana and I'm just about to talk to you about how to move abroad. So there's a lot of steps that you have to think about, and I know it's a very scary experience, especially if it's your first time. So I definitely recommend to do a lot of research, watch as many of these sort of videos as you want. It's just so nice to feel prepared, and it'll just make it a little bit easier if you've actually listened to people who have done it themselves. I personally have moved to Sweden before, and I have just moved over to France. This is my third day here and it's really exciting, and I thought it would be a good time to teach you all about moving overseas whilst it's kind of fresh in my head. Alrighty, so first things first, where are you going to head to? You need to do a lot of research and decide where you want to go. So you need to consider the country, obviously, and then you need to consider the city itself and the different cultures there. If you want to be in a smaller sort of city or a big main city and all that, you need to consider the language that they speak, if there's any cultural clashes, their religion and all those things, and just to see if it actually suits you and what you want out of moving overseas. You also need to look into the cost of living. Obviously, if you're going into a bigger city, it's probably going to be a bit more expensive, whereas if you go into a more smaller town, it'll be a bit cheaper, and it means you don't have to save as much money, which is always a bit of a bonus, and it might mean that you don't need to get a job as soon, and you don't need to save as much money. So, once you've decided that, the first thing I'd consider is, do you need a visa? So definitely look into that and consider what you actually want to do whilst you're over there. So if you want to study, work, if you're just there for a holiday, make sure that you get the visa that suits your needs. Otherwise you might find a lot of issues, especially if you want to find a job or something and you find that your visa only limits you to traveling around. I'm personally on a working holiday visa in France, so I'm actually on the search for a job right now. But I've saved a fair bit of money, so I've got hopefully about a month to look around and find something. The visa generally has a lot of different forms and things you need to organize, and it takes a bit of time, so make sure to research all this stuff. Like, I needed a police report, bank statements, proof of identification, just so many different things. I needed to have proof of flights. They just think of absolutely everything. So make sure that you look into these forms and make sure that you actually meet the requirements. For mine, you can only have the working holiday visa once. Once you've had it, you can't apply for it again. So look for those small things, because the last thing you want to do is apply and then find out that you've been rejected because you missed something like that. You also need to look at in what time frame you're meant to apply for it. I wasn't allowed to apply for it any sooner than 3 months before I was planning to leave, and then it also stated that I had to apply for it. I think it was about 15 days before I left, so I had to make sure I was within that specific time frame, otherwise I was going to have a lot of issues. If you are hoping to work there, look into the options. Maybe you'll find that you want to do something online or at home, so if language barrier is an issue there, you can work around that. You might need to get your resume translated. I luckily had a friend who is fluent in French, so she has completely translated my resume, so now I can hand in both my English and French version to wherever I might want to apply, so they can understand what I'm trying to say. Next thing, I would suggest getting some travel insurance. It's just a nice thing to know that if there is any issues along the way, you are covered. You don't want to go to another foreign country where you might not speak the language or anything and end up in hospital with thousands of dollars that you don't even have to pay for whatever medical needs you require during that time. It's nice to have that little bit of a backup, and my visa actually required me to have some insurance. Then you need to consider how you're actually going to get to the destination. If you're going to fly there, travel there by car if that's possible for you, take a boat. I took a flight, and then you need to consider what the actual baggage limit is. Most flights, from what I know, take about 23 kilos, and then you've got the hand luggage, which is about 7 kilos. I actually went on China Eastern though, which allows 2 bags of 23 kilos, so 46 kilos all up, which was quite nice. However, I do think that a lot of people get stressed out about how do I pack for moving overseas for a year or whatever else it would be. And I think, honestly, just imagine that you're going overseas for a month. Bring those essentials, whatever you would bring, your computer, phone, camera, a few basic clothes. At the end of the day, you're going to probably buy a lot of it once you're over there. You need to bring, I would definitely bring adapters, and I would bring a dictionary if you're going to a country that speaks a different language. But other than that, just bring absolute essentials and you'll probably buy the rest once you're there. Then you need to look into things like your bank and your phone. You'll probably need to cancel whatever phone plan you're on and transfer to a different bank once you're over there, because you don't want to be paying those extra surcharges every time you pay for something. So make sure to look at reviews and see what options are out there before deciding what you want to go on. I also need to cancel things like a gym membership or inform your school that you might be leaving. Just look into all those things that you have going on in your life at home and make sure that you have contacted them and have sorted everything out before you leave, because the last thing you want is to find out that you're still paying your phone bill when you're overseas and you have no way to cancel it. Next thing, look into accommodation. So if you're planning to rent a place, if you want to stay in a hotel or hostel for the first few weeks and everything, need to look at the positioning of the destination. If you're going to need certain types of transportation, if there's buses or trains, if you want to get a car or if you can bike ride everywhere, look into this sort of stuff. So there's no extra hidden costs or anything. If you're going to rent, make sure you know all the different rules and everything. Another thing is, do you know anyone that lives there, has lived there, or even visited there? Definitely ask them for advice. Ask them any questions you have, because I'm sure they'll be wanting to help. And obviously it's the best people to go to because they know the place. Once you get there, most important thing to do is to get involved. Make sure you try and make friends, get involved in clubs, just find a bunch of hobbies and it'll just make life that whole lot easier. I'm part of an English speaking club here in France, just so I feel like I've got that little bit of home with me. So I hope this was a bit of good advice and it'll help you once you try and organize your trip overseas, and best of luck with it. Thank you.